The year was 2197, and the galaxy had changed. Once, humanity had been a small, scattered species on the edge of the cosmos, unnoticed and unimportant. But over the past few decades, Earth had proven itself capable of more than just survival. It had fought back against countless alien threats and carved out a place for itself in the stars. The humans had earned respect, but the Empire, a vast and oppressive force that controlled most of the galaxy, still believed that humanity was weak. They thought that the humans' recent successes were nothing more than a fluke. That was until they decided to teach Earth a lesson it would never forget. It all began with a single transmission. The Empire had been planning to strike Earth for some time, but they had waited for the right moment. The humans had no idea what was coming. The transmission was short, direct, and cold. "Prepare for the consequences of defying the Empire," it said, followed by a series of encrypted coordinates. The message was clear. Earth had stepped too far out of line, and the Empire was coming to put an end to it. The arrogance of the Empire was evident. They believed Earth was no match for their superior fleet, and they intended to prove it in the harshest way possible. The humans, unaware of the impending assault, had been focusing on their own preparations. Their fleets were growing stronger, their colonies expanding, and their technology advancing rapidly. But that message was the first sign that the Empire was planning something far darker. It was a warning, but it came too late. On Earth's main military station, Admiral Elena Hayes received the transmission. She was known for her strategic brilliance and calm under pressure, but even she could sense the gravity of the situation. The warning hit her like a punch to the gut. The Empire had been watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They had calculated everything: the number of ships, the speed of their assault, and the fact that humanity had no way to stop them. Hayes knew that the Empire's arrogance was dangerous, but she had no choice but to prepare for the worst. "Activate all defense protocols," Hayes ordered, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. "Prepare the fleet for immediate deployment. We need every ship ready. This isn't just a test. They're coming to destroy us." Her officers moved quickly, carrying out her orders with military precision. But even as they worked, doubt lingered in the air. The Empire's forces were vast, far more numerous and powerful than anything humanity had ever faced. Could they stand a chance? Was Earth truly prepared for the storm that was coming? The message from the Empire was clear. They were coming, and they were coming in force. The humans had only a matter of days, perhaps hours, before the Empire's fleets arrived on their doorstep. The problem was, they had no idea what the Empire was bringing with them. The message didn't specify the size of the attack force or the exact nature of their weaponry. It didn't need to. The Empire had always been known for its overwhelming superiority, and this time, they were coming to crush humanity once and for all. Admiral Hayes spent the next few hours organizing a defense strategy, rallying Earth's scattered fleets. She was no stranger to conflict. Humanity had fought countless wars to survive, but this was different. This wasn't just a battle for territory or resources. This was an existential fight. If they lost, Earth wouldn't just be conquered. It would be wiped out, erased from the galaxy. She couldn't let that happen. As the fleet readied itself, the Empire made its move. Their ships appeared in the system without warning, as if they had always been there, lurking in the shadows. The first wave arrived in the dead of night, without any fanfare, just cold, calculated precision. Their ships were massive, dwarfing the human vessels. Each one was a fortress in space, bristling with weapons capable of obliterating entire fleets in seconds. The humans were outmatched and outgunned. Still, they fought back with everything they had. The first battle took place just outside the Earth's orbit, as humanity's fleet scrambled to position itself. The Empire's ships opened fire, their weapons crackling with deadly energy. The humans retaliated, launching every missile and laser they had in their arsenal. But it quickly became clear that the Empire's firepower was far superior. Human ships were destroyed in moments, their shields unable to withstand the barrage. The Empire's ships moved with terrifying precision, targeting human vessels one by one. But despite the odds, humanity did not retreat. The Sol Invictus, Earth's flagship, led the charge, its captain, Elena Hayes, barking orders as her crew fought with everything they had. The humans had learned to adapt quickly, using their smaller, more agile ships to slip past the Empire's defenses, launching surprise attacks whenever possible. They weren't going to win through brute force. They would win through strategy and sheer will. "Keep fighting," Hayes shouted over the comms, her voice filled with determination. "We won't give them Earth without a fight. All ships, engage at maximum range." The Sol Invictus launched a devastating volley, striking one of the Empire's smaller ships. It exploded in a ball of fire, but the victory was fleeting. The Empire's retaliation was swift and brutal, and the humans were once again pushed back. Hayes watched as her fleet was whittled down, each loss driving her to push harder, to keep fighting. But deep down, she knew the truth. They couldn't win this battle, not in the conventional sense, but they could make the Empire bleed. They could make them pay for every inch they gained. It wasn't just a matter of military strategy anymore. It was a matter of survival. Hours passed, and the humans fought tooth and nail, their ships holding their ground despite the overwhelming force of the Empire. But the tide was turning. The Empire's superior numbers were beginning to show. Slowly, the human fleet began to crumble, their ships falling one by one. As the battle raged on, Hayes made a decision that would change the course of the war. She ordered the human forces to fall back, pulling the remaining ships into Earth's atmosphere for a final defense. They would fight to the last breath. If they were going to go down, they would do so on their home ground, with everything they had. As the remaining ships retreated to Earth, Hayes stared out at the stars, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision she had made. She knew the Empire would be relentless. They would keep coming, stronger and more vicious than ever before. And when they came again, humanity would be ready. They had been warned, but they weren't afraid. The battle was just beginning, and the humans were ready to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. This would not be their end. This was just the beginning of a war that would shake the very foundation of the Empire. And humanity's darkest side was about to awaken. The skies over Earth were stained with fire. Wreckage from the earlier battle floated across orbit, and the ground forces scrambled to prepare for what they feared would be the Empire's final strike. Civilians had been moved underground, protected by vast shielded cities, while above them, the remaining human military forces regrouped. Despite the devastating loss in space, there was no talk of surrender. Humanity wasn't built for surrender. Inside Earth's central command bunker, deep beneath the surface, Admiral Elena Hayes stood at the heart of the war room. Around her, the lights flickered with red alerts, and the air was tense with the knowledge that another wave was coming. She reviewed battle reports and casualty numbers. They had lost over half the fleet in the first encounter. And yet, something had shifted. The Empire had pulled back. It wasn't like them to retreat, not after a victory. They were up to something. "They're regrouping," said Lieutenant Park, his voice low. "They didn't expect this much resistance. We made them bleed." Hayes nodded, her expression serious. "Not enough to stop them, but enough to make them hesitate. That's our opening." At that moment, General Marcus Vole entered the room. His face was hard, older than his years, a man shaped by too many battles. But there was something in his eyes, something darker than even Hayes expected. "We need to activate the Obsidian Protocol," he said without delay. Hayes stared at him. That project was shut down. The Council banned it for a reason. "Reason doesn't matter anymore," Vole said. "We've been pushed too far. If we don't use it now, there won't be an Earth left to protect." The Obsidian Protocol was a secret. Even most of the top brass had only heard rumors. It was a last resort plan, buried deep beneath classified layers. An experimental program created years ago, when humanity first began to explore weapons that affected not just the body, but the mind. It was built from ancient alien tech found on a forgotten planet, a planet where a species had wiped itself out by unlocking something too powerful, too primal. But humanity had studied it, and some believed they had tamed it. Vol continued, "This isn't about just defending Earth anymore. It's about survival. If we lose now, there will be no second chance. We unleash the protocol. We show them what happens when you push humanity into a corner." Hayes hesitated. She had fought for humanity's future all her life. But this was something different, something dangerous. The protocol didn't just create soldiers. It unlocked a side of the human brain that had been dormant for centuries, a side born of instinct, fear, rage, and ancient survival drive. Those who went through it didn't come back the same. Some didn't come back at all. "We don't even know if it's stable," Hayes said quietly. "We don't have time," Vol replied. "We have the volunteers. Let me activate it." That night, in the deepest vaults beneath Earth, the Obsidian Protocol was turned on. 24 elite soldiers stepped into chambers lined with alien metal. Needles pierced their skin. Neural stimulators activated parts of their brain that had never been touched. Memories not their own began to flood their minds. Echoes of past lives, past wars, and violent instincts buried by generations of evolution. They screamed. Some tried to break free. But the process continued. And then, silence. Hours later, the doors opened. The soldiers emerged. Change. Their eyes glowed faintly with an unnatural light. Their movements were sharper, faster. Their expressions unreadable. The darkness had been awakened. The scientists monitoring the experiment watched in awe and fear. These were not the same humans who had entered the chamber. They were something more, something worse. The soldiers said nothing. They didn't need to. The way they looked at the world had changed, and it wasn't clear if they would ever look at it the same again. They volunteered. Vol reminded Hayes. They knew the risks. "Do they even understand what they are now?" she asked. "They understand one thing, how to kill the enemy." The Empire returned 2 days later. This time, their fleet was larger, heavier. They meant to crush Earth once and for all. Their ships blotted out the stars, descending with a fury that shook the planet's atmosphere. But this time, humanity was ready with a weapon the Empire had never seen before. The enhanced soldiers, now codenamed Obsidian, were sent to the front lines. No ships, no armor, just drop pods. Like falling stars, they entered the battlefield with precision, crashing into the enemy lines. And then, chaos. The Empire had fought 100 species across the galaxy, but they had never fought anything like this. The Obsidians moved like shadows, appearing where they weren't expected, striking with speed no organic creature should have. They tore through armor. Their strength was unnatural. Their coordination, flawless. They weren't using traditional weapons. They were the weapons. The alien commanders panicked. Orders were scrambled. Entire squads disappeared. Screams echoed through comm channels. And then, silence. The humans didn't just push back the invasion. They dismantled it. Back at command, Hayes watched the reports in disbelief. The Obsidians were winning battles in minutes that would have taken hours. They were outnumbered 5-1. And still, they were the ones advancing. But the more Hayes saw, the more uneasy she became. One report came in from a forward base. Obsidian Unit Alpha 3 failed to respond to extraction. When approached, they opened fire on friendly forces. Another from a scout team. Obsidian soldiers found standing over enemy corpses. No signs of restraint. Some appeared to be feeding. Hayes turned to Vol. "We've unleashed something we don't understand." "They're winning," he said flatly. "Let them finish the job." But at what cost? As Earth began to push the Empire back, the price of their victory became clearer. The Obsidians were no longer soldiers. They were predators. They moved in silence. They no longer followed orders unless those orders involved killing. They were changing, not just in body, but in mind, becoming something alien. Still, the humans had no choice but to let them fight. Every battle they won brought the Empire closer to retreat, but every fight the Obsidians survived made them less human. A message was intercepted from the Empire's high command. The aliens had one reaction: fear. "This is not the same species we attacked," one alien commander said. "This is something darker, something that shouldn't exist." But it did, and it was growing. Back on Earth, Hayes stood in the quiet of the war room. The stars above were no longer symbols of wonder. They were reminders of what had been unleashed in the name of survival. The Empire had pushed too far. And now humanity had pushed back with something terrible. The war wasn't over. But now, a new question had emerged. Could the dark side of humanity ever be contained again? Or was it already too late? End of Part 2. Let me know when you're ready for Part 3. Hayes finally made a decision. She called a secret meeting with her closest advisors. "This war is almost over," she said. "But I don't know if we're the good guys anymore." "What are you saying?" one of the generals asked. "I'm saying the Obsidians are no longer under our control," she replied. "They don't follow orders. They follow instincts. They're winning this war, yes, but when the war ends, what happens to them?" General Vole entered the room mid-conversation. He had heard her words. "They saved us, Elena. Don't forget that. They changed us, Marcus. And they might have ended more than just the Empire." Vole slammed a folder down on the table. "This is what survival looks like. You can't expect to fight monsters and not become one." Hayes looked at the reports again. Battle maps soaked in red, casualty lists growing longer, and videos of Obsidians standing in the ruins, their faces expressionless, their eyes glowing. They didn't speak anymore. They didn't feel. They just destroyed. And something inside her broke. "Pull the Obsidians back," she said. "All of them. Ground them immediately." Vole shook his head. "That's a mistake. We're this close to ending it. I don't care. Before we destroy the Empire, we need to make sure we haven't destroyed ourselves first." But her order came too late. At that very moment, an Obsidian strike team had landed on the Empire's capital world, without waiting for orders, without any backup. They had gone in alone. And the last message Earth received from them wasn't a report. It was a warning. They're not human anymore. And they're not just fighting the Empire. Hayes stared at the screen. The war wasn't turning anymore. It was spiraling out of control. The Obsidian team sent to the Empire's capital world never came back. At first, Earth's command thought the team had gone silent due to interference. Then came the second transmission, a flickering, broken message, barely understandable through the static. No voices, just heavy breathing, gunfire, and a single visual, a blood-smeared camera lens showing dozens of alien corpses. Then, nothing. Transmission dead. No follow-up. No signs of life. Admiral Hayes stood at the center of Earth Command's war room, watching the screen like it might somehow change if she stared long enough. But it didn't. The signal remained dark. Their mission was unsanctioned. An officer said, "They went in without orders. We don't even know why." "We know why," Hayes whispered. "Because we can't control them anymore." General Vole stood nearby, arms crossed tightly, trying not to meet her eyes. He had supported the protocol from the beginning, believed in it, but even he had begun to question what they had created. "Send in a recon drone," Hayes ordered. "It won't survive more than a few minutes on that planet," someone replied. "Send it anyway." The drone was launched within the hour. It arrived at the Empire capital, Yereth Prime, a once great world of shining towers, endless cities, and advanced civilization. Now, smoke, silence, everything dead. The drone flew low through city streets filled with craters and wreckage. Bodies lay everywhere, Empire soldiers, civilians, even children. No signs of fighting in some areas, just pure, silent devastation, as if something had moved through the city, killing everything in its path. Hayes watched from Earth, eyes wide. Pause it. Zoom in. The image focused on a wall. Words were scratched into the metal, not with tools, but with bare hands. No masters, no orders, just war. Hayes backed away from the screen. The implications were clear. The Obsidians weren't taking orders anymore, not from Earth, not from anyone. The chain of command had been broken. And worse, the war wasn't ending for them. For the Obsidians, it was just beginning. Back at headquarters, panic spread. Debates exploded. Some wanted to recall the protocol and shut it down permanently. Others argued they should still use it. They had no better weapon. But none of it mattered, because the Obsidians had vanished. They weren't at their assigned bases. They weren't responding to comms. They had scattered across the stars like ghosts. Reports flooded in from outposts. Strange attacks. Entire fleets gone dark. Civilian ships found floating, their crews missing. The attacks were surgical. No signs of looting. Just violence. Clean and brutal. Some thought it was the Empire retaliating. But Admiral Hayes knew better. They'd gone rogue, she said. Then what do we do? One of her commanders asked. How do we fight them? There was no answer. In secret, Hayes contacted an old friend, Dr. Kira Solon, one of the lead scientists who had originally developed the Obsidian Protocol. She had left the project years ago after warning that it was too dangerous. Now, Hayes needed her help again. Solon's face appeared on the screen, older and more tired than Hayes remembered. I warned you, she said. The protocol wasn't a weapon. It was a transformation. We need to stop them. You can't, Solon replied. They're not human anymore. You didn't enhance them. You evolved them. What you're seeing now, this is just the beginning. They're building something. Something you don't understand. Hayes leaned in. Then tell me what I'm dealing with. You're dealing with a species that has removed every barrier to survival. No fear, no hesitation, no morality. They are war. And they no longer care who the enemy is. Hayes ended the call with a pit in her stomach. She had thought she was fighting the Empire. But now she realized humanity had created something worse. Something that didn't care about peace. Something that didn't understand peace. Still, she wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. She ordered a small elite team, pure humans, no enhancements, to track the rogue Obsidians. Their mission was not to fight, but to gather intel. Find out what they were doing, where they were going, what they had become. The team, codenamed Echo Black, tracked energy signatures to a dead world near the galactic rim. No known settlements. No reason for any activity, but the signs were clear. Something had landed there. Something big. When Echo Black touched down, they expected ruins. Maybe a hidden base. What they found instead shook them to their core. A fortress was being built. Not human, not alien. Something new. Black towers, made from a metal that seemed to breathe. Strange lights moved through the sky. Drones, or something worse. The team moved carefully, hiding in shadows, scanning everything. And then they saw them, the Obsidians. But these weren't the same ones Earth had sent into battle. They had changed again. Some had metal fused into their skin. Others had grown new limbs, or strange armor-like growths on their backs. They moved in perfect silence, never speaking, just working. Building something. At the center of the fortress was a massive structure, shaped like a cube, humming with energy. The team couldn't identify it, but they sent back one image before their signal was cut. The image showed symbols etched into the cube, ancient, alien markings no human had ever seen before. Except one, Dr. Solon. When Hayes showed her the image, Solon's face turned pale. This isn't just their base, she said. It's a signal tower. They're calling something. Calling what? Hayes asked. Solon didn't answer for a long time. Then she whispered, "The next phase." Hayes stared at the screen. The war was over, but something worse was coming. Something humanity might not survive. The black cube on the dead world pulsed with slow, steady energy. It gave off no heat, no detectable radiation, but somehow, every sensor on the observation drones malfunctioned when they got too close. Even the hardened satellites, designed to withstand EMPs and plasma storms, began to glitch. Something inside the cube was active, but it wasn't technology Earth understood. It wasn't human, and maybe not even alien. It felt older, deeper. Admiral Elena Hayes stood in Earth's war room, watching the feed in silence. The last Echo Black team had vanished without a trace. No screams, no signals, just gone. And the cube kept pulsing. Dr. Kira Solon, now permanently reactivated to Earth Command, stood beside her, flipping through data. Her hands trembled. "It's a beacon," she said. "But it's not just calling to others like them. It's sending a message into deep space." Hayes looked at her sharply. "To who?" "To whatever gave us the technology to make the protocol in the first place," Solon said, almost whispering. "We didn't invent it, remember. We reverse-engineered it. From ruins, from a dead civilization that wiped itself out using the same methods we just used. That cube, it's like a flare. A signal to say, we're ready. Ready for what? Ascension or extinction." The words hung in the air like smoke. Across the galaxy, Empire forces were retreating, surrendering. Their high command had crumbled. Their capital had been wiped out. But they no longer fought back, because they weren't afraid of Earth anymore. They were afraid of what Earth had become. In secret, the remnants of the Empire contacted Admiral Hayes, not to negotiate surrender, but to form an alliance. "Your creations have become something else," the transmission said, translated into English. "We do not wish to fight you, but we must stop them before they summon what lies beyond the veil." Hayes wanted to reject them. After everything the Empire had done, slaughtered colonies, bombed Earth's cities, crushed alliances, why should she trust them? But the truth was undeniable. They were right. The Obsidians weren't just a weapon anymore. They were a spark, a signal, and something was responding. All across human space, strange events began to occur. Starships disappearing in empty sectors. Entire moons going dark. Gravity readings fluctuating wildly in places with no life. And then, one day, a new signal appeared, deep from intergalactic space, far beyond known charts. A low, rhythmic pulse that echoed through every sensor in the galaxy. It was not human, not even alien. It was a reply. Hayes watched the data with dread. How long until it arrives? Solon did the math. Her face turned white. 17 days. Earth had just over 2 weeks before something unknown, vast, and ancient, reached them. There was only one chance left. A desperate plan was drawn. A joint task force. Humans and remaining Empire forces. Their goal, land on the Obsidian world, destroy the cube, and stop the signal before it completed its cycle. They called it Operation Black Silence. Hayes didn't leave from the bunker this time. She went herself. She couldn't ask others to do what she wouldn't. As Earth's last hope gathered in orbit, the fleet felt smaller than it should. Tired, worn. Even the ships seemed to understand this wasn't just another battle. It was the final one. The fleet jumped together to the black world. And instantly, everything went wrong. The planet's orbit was surrounded by a strange energy field, one that bent space itself. Some ships were torn apart mid-jump. Others emerged into madness. Sensors blinded, systems scrambled, and the Obsidians were waiting. Not with fleets, not with weapons, with themselves. They flew through space without ships, wrapped in strange organic armor, bodies twisted and changed. Some had wings made of energy, Others had merged with machines, floating in the vacuum like silent reapers. They didn't speak. They didn't send warnings. They attacked. The battle was chaos. Human and alien ships fought side by side, but it was like trying to stop a storm with bullets. The Obsidians moved too fast, predicted movements before they happened. Their minds were now connected, a hive, a single will driven by one goal: protect the signal. Hayes led her strike team to the surface through the chaos. They landed in scorched valleys, surrounded by pulsing black towers, all feeding energy into the cube. The ground itself seemed alive, shifting, moving, watching. They fought their way forward, losing people at every step. Even the enhanced troops couldn't keep up. Only pure humans, the ones untouched by the protocol, seemed to be ignored by the Obsidians, as if the monsters didn't even recognize them as a threat. Hayes and Solon reached the cube's base. It pulsed louder now, like a heartbeat. Inside, they saw something impossible. A being made of light and shadow, forming slowly at the center of the structure. Not machine, not organic. A being made of memory, instinct, and war. It was what the signal had summoned. It was the next step in evolution. Solon looked at it with terror. It's not coming. It's being born. From them. From us. From everything we've done. Hayes had brought one last weapon. A detonation core strong enough to vaporize the entire structure. But she hesitated. Could she really end it? Could she kill whatever was inside before it finished forming? Then she looked up. Above the cube, in the sky, more rifts were opening. Whatever was coming, this was just the first. She placed the core, turned the dial, and looked at Solon. We stop this here. No more monsters. Not us. Not them. Solon nodded. The countdown began. As the cube started to unravel, the Obsidians let out a sound, a deep, unified howl of rage and pain. They rushed toward the core, trying to stop it, but they were too late. The explosion tore through the black world, swallowing the fortress, the cube, and the sky above. Silence. Then, nothing. Back on Earth, a signal came through. Hayes survived. Barely. The rifts in space closed. The signal stopped. The strange entity inside the cube was gone. The Obsidians disappeared. No one knew where, or if they were truly dead. But the galaxy breathed again. The Empire, broken and ashamed, offered peace. Real peace. They had seen the dark side of humanity and understood. It could never be unleashed again. Earth buried the protocol, destroyed the research, and swore never again. But in deep space, beyond the stars, something still remembers the signal and waits. Because sometimes, when humanity is pushed too far, it pushes back with something worse.